Telling tales, the journey from the traditional to the digital. Why fairy tales have been manipulated and changed over time. For my dissertation, I want to look at and understand how we learn from fairy tales, why they are open to change and adaptation by analysing what elements remain central to the folk tales and what elements change and why. I want to prove that fairy tales are vital learning tools that are at the foundation of storytelling. Storytelling is one of our oldest art forms. Long before modern media entertained us, storytelling was a common pastime, and a good storyteller was a valuable attribute to the community. Folktales were stories of hopes and dreams, of encounters with giants, wicked witches and goblins that inflict harm, or kind fairies and dragons who restore peace and order. We were told not to stray from the path or we would get eaten by a wicked wolf. We have Hansel and Gretel not listening to their parents and nearly getting eaten by a wicked witch, and this is just after the first bite. These were our first experiences of life-changing patterns, and through which we were able to know good from evil, kindness from cruelty, and the difference between ambition and despair. As you delve further into them, you get to see different meanings, different anecdotes that not only change over time, but change with our different stages of life. They have different meanings for us as children than they do as adults. I am very interested in seeing why they change, not only why the meanings change from childhood to adulthood, but why they are manipulated and changed within society while remaining untouched at the core. They present many different layers and meanings, and in conjunction with the development of different forms of technology, they have adapted and changed with us. So, who was Vladimir Propp? Vladimir Propp was a Russian folklorist and scholar who analysed many of his country's folktales and identified the common themes within them. He broke down the stories into analysable chunks and identified 31 narrative interests that comprised the structure of many of these stories. In recent years, people have used his form of analysis to break down stories such as Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Lord of the Rings. I hope to apply Propp's analysis to the different adaptations of fairy tales, including traditional forms such as the original tales themselves and some of their filmic or video game transformations. So this next slide here is a slide I found online that shows that Propp's theory can be used to analyse films as well as fairy tales themselves. It doesn't have to be something that's literary. So from this diagram here, or well, pictures here, you can see that the hero, which is Aragorn, is a character that seeks something, and the villain, Sauron, who's someone who opposes or actively blocks the hero's quest. The donor, Bilbo Baggins, provides an object with magical properties, and the dispatcher, Gandalf, sends the hero on his or her quest with a message. And the false hero, who's Gollum in Lord of the Rings, disrupts the hero's success by making false claims. The helper, Legolas, aids the hero, and the princess Arwen acts as the reward for the hero and the object of the villain's plots. And her father, Elrond, acts to reward the hero for his effort. So, what is my plan? My plan is to use Proppian analysis of fairy tales as a starting point. I will use this to analyse some of the adaptations of fairy tales, seeing what elements are central to the adaptation and how they are different and or similar to the original tale. To show this, I will use the fairy tale Little Red Riding Hood as an example. This tale has been changed and adapted extensively over time. It has been rehashed so much that it has been completely broken down into various distinct versions. Even within these versions, it has been diluted so much that aspects of it appear within a vast variety of different genres of modern film. We have the stereotypical rewrites of Little Red Riding Hood that have discernible similarities to the tale, and we have films such as Ginger Snaps that do not have self-evident links to Little Red Riding Hood at first glance, but after analysis they become a remix of the tale's prominent themes. It is Little Red Riding Hood at its core, a tale about female sexuality and the coming of maturity. They have linked the female menstrual cycle to the transition of Ginger Fitzgerald into a werewolf. The transformation of a girl into a werewolf is another take on the tale, allowing women to become the sexualized wolf instead of fearing a man. So, like I was saying earlier, the Proprian analysis is just the start. After analysing some of the fairy tales and their different adaptations, I then hope to take what I have learned and apply it to random films, games, books, and even possibly TV series to map out the common elements and to find the connections between fairy tales and storytelling in all its different forms. And in doing so, I hope to prove how influential these tales are. So once I have collected all my data and found out how and what aspects of fairy tales have bled into all our different mediums of storytelling that we have now, I want to go back to the very start and share it all through a fairy tale inspired digital archive, which would be multi-layered archive that allows the player to play a character from maybe 2 or 3 different fairy tales, and they get to discover more about the fairy tales, their past, their present and future, something similar to the Tale of Tales but educational. So it would be like The Path meets Pottermore, where Pottermore is more detailed and has a lot more layers to it, to discover more about the tales themselves. So if I was to transform what I learned about Little Red Riding Hood, for example, into the interactive game, I would hope to set it in a forest where we see our Little Red Riding Hood starting off on a path, and she is given a choice to stay on it or veer off. I then hope to have different nuggets of information scattered throughout the forest, and as she wanders, where the player gets to pick up and interact with the different items that will unlock more information about the tale. Maybe an audio clip with a new rendition of the tale, or a video montage of a film, or even clips from a video game such as The Path. I want it to be packed full of information about not only Little Red Riding Hood itself, but I hope and want to be able to do it in such a way that even though it's based around the fairy tale, that it will be teaching the core elements of storytelling. A digital tool that I plan to use would be Gephi. As part of my research, I want to find good ways to show my findings, and I believe Gephi is one, along with good old-fashioned bar charts. And something like Evelina Gavisova's analysis of Star Wars is something that I find very interesting, and I think it's a really good way of showing interactions between characters and how characters differ from the different versions of the fairy tales and their different mediums and things. So as you can see, I have a starting point and I know where I want to end up and how I want it to look. I just need to work on how to get there. And so that's it for my presentation. Thank you very much.